Alright, today I'm going to do a review of the Holman Christian Standard Bible, single column, personal size Bible, and this is the black leather touch edition. And let's look at the back of the box here. That tells you about the Bible, and feel free to pause the video if you'd like to read this in more detail. So the price on this, retail price, is about $30, and there's the ISBN number if you'd like to look this up. So one thing I really like is the boxes on the CSBs, at least the more recent ones that I've seen, are really nice. This is a two-piece box that the Bible comes in, and it's nice. It's not as thick as the thin line box for the thin line Bible, but it's still a pretty nice box for keeping the Bible stored. So the cover on this is a leather touch, so for those of you who don't know, what that means is it's meant to look like leather, but it's not real leather. And so they, a lot of times with these Bible publishers, will put a word with the word leather to designate that it's not genuine leather. But it has kind of a leather look to it. The feel of this is rough. It doesn't feel plasticky, but it doesn't feel like real leather either. It's kind of a firm, stiff feel to it. But it looks pretty nice. And the spine, of course, on the CSBs, I love them. Their logo looks fantastic. You've got these separation markers, and I just like how simple and straightforward they do the printing on this. It looks really nice. Not too flashy, just enough to make it look good, in my opinion. I think their spines look great. There is a stitching, perimeter stitching around the cover here. What is neat about the stitching on some of these Holman Bibles is you have a two-toned look. So there's red on the inside stitching here, and then black on the outside. So as you can see, that creates a really neat look to it. Just a paste down liner here. So that's a paper liner here, and then the kind of a cardstock end sheet. The gilding on this is a nice gold gilding on the edge, which looks good. It's just a pretty simple Bible, so there's no art gilding underneath. And then we've got a couple of nice ribbons here, and these have a sheen on both sides, it looks like, and one is black, one is red, and they're both angle cut. The size of this Bible is a really nice size, in my opinion. This is called a personal size. It's about 8 7/8 inches by 5 3/4 inches by 1 5/8 inches. So what I find about this size is it's really nice for being able to carry around. It's fairly portable. It is a little thick, but it's still easy to carry around and hold in your hand, and it's big enough to where you get a really good font size. I want to compare it to the thin line version, the ultra thin, and so this, as I said, has a thicker box. These are actually both retail price of about $30. Now this thin line here, as you can see, is actually a very similar footprint in terms of height and width. They're really similar, but then when you get to the thickness, that's where you see the real difference. The thin line is only about 1 inch thick, and this single column is 1 5/8 inches thick. So it's definitely a thicker Bible and takes up more space that way. But what you're getting as a difference is that single column, and it's really quite large print. That's really nice. If you compare to this, you get a double column, which is a great use of space, and I love thin lines. Very portable. But if you really want to be able to read through long sections and have a nice size font, this is like a 10 point, whereas this would only be maybe 8 to 9 point font. I think they do consider it a 9 point. It's okay, and it's pretty readable, but this is even more readable. So for that extra thickness, you're getting a better reader Bible. So this Bible is really great for reading through the Bible in long sections. It's just a great reader, in my opinion. So let's look at the inside a little bit here. So the first thing you're going to see on the inside, as is often the case, is a presentation page. And that's what the CSB presentation page looks like. Then you got a title page here. And this is a copyright 2018. There are only a couple of editions for the single column Bible that they have, and one is the black deluxe leather touch. That's this. And then there's also a brown genuine leather. And so if you'd like to get a genuine leather edition of this, you can do that. So everything I'm showing you here, you can get the same thing but with a genuine leather cover. It is going to be a little bit more expensive, but still going to have the good, beautiful content that you see here. So here's the books of the Bible. It also shows you here the additional materials, which we will look at. Christian Standard Bibles usually will have the introduction to tell you about how they put the translation together, what their translation philosophy is. And then commonly used abbreviations in CSB Bibles. Alright, so the Old Testament. So when I get into the Bible, the paper here, one thing I will say is it's very thin paper, but there's a lot of pages. I think there's over 2,000 pages in this Bible. But it is amazingly opaque for the thinness of the paper. I think it's really really good paper, actually, for the kind of Bible that you're getting here. Now, when I first got the Bible, the pages were stuck together, as can be the case when you have really thin pages on Bibles that are not super expensive. They can really be stuck together. So I just take the time to unstick all those pages. It takes some time, but if you do that, then it just creates a nice, really smooth finished product. When you're all done separating those pages, you can just go through the Bible very easily, and it's nice and smooth. So that's really good. But you will have to take the time to separate those pages. So you can see the format here. And I have to say, again, this is the CSB. They had 2K Denmark design their font. This is a 10-point and single column. I think it's one of the most readable Bibles that you're going to see. I think when 2K Denmark did CSB's font, I think it's in my opinion, the best one out there. There's just something about it that I think looks fantastic. It's unique, and yet it's somehow, not over the top weird in any way. It just looks really good. It's kind of a taller font, very efficient use of space, and just, as I said, very readable. So I love the font in the CSBs. It's one of the reasons I do like the CSB so much. It's line matched. As you can see, it has really good spacing between the lines, which all helps with readability. It has good margin space. So as you're looking at the page visually, you're getting those nice margins. You can see it's paragraph format with section headings, chapter numbers, all that. I like too that this still, even though it's a nice reader, you still have nice clear verse numbers. They're quite bold. And so even if you had this at church and you needed to look up a verse when someone was speaking, or maybe you were teaching, you actually still could use this in those settings because the verse numbers are nice and bold. So it's kind of a nice multi-purpose Bible. Then of course you have footnotes. These are translator footnotes. No cross references, but plenty of translator footnotes, which is really good. And then whenever you see poetry, of course you're going to get the poetic settings in this kind of a Bible, and I think they look great. Let's get to the middle of the Bible here. And as we get into Psalms, you see that poetic setting, and that looks fantastic. So single columns often have this. It's one of the nice things about them is you get the full lines of poetry. But as I said, they did a really good job. This has a wonderful look to it. Another cool thing that you get in the CSB is how they format their numbers. They often will just write the numeric version of the number rather than write out the number, which you might see in older versions. You'll actually see the numbers. This isn't the only translation to do that, but as you can see when they do it, like in this case, they have it done in a way that looks like a chart almost, and that just makes it a lot easier. So they are translating the Hebrew, but they're putting it in a way that in our way of reading and looking at things is just really helpful. And this is the way that we would tend to do it, the way we would list things out, and I think that looks fantastic. Just really makes it a lot easier to understand and to visualize what it is you're reading, especially when it comes to numbers in this Bible. And then we're going to get into the New Testament here. So of course between the Old and the New Testament you have this page denoting that we're getting into the New Testament. This shows you again some of the nice formatting with the genealogy that you have in the book of Matthew. And then I like how in the New Testament in the CSB, the Old Testament quotes are bold. Anytime you have a direct quote, they're going to have a bold font there so you can see where it's quoting the Old Testament. I like that, and other versions have other ways of denoting that, but I think that looks really good. And so, as I said, this is just a great portable Bible that you can read through the Bible because of the formatting and the font size. Really good for reading long sections of Scripture. Then right after the Bible, you get to the end of Revelation. You have a little section here on where to turn. So this might be for someone who's newer to the Bible or just someone who wants to look up some different topics that would be helpful. It gives you the topic, reference, and a page number where to find it. Then you have a table of weights and measures. And you do have a concordance in this. The font on this is quite small. As is often the case with concordances, they're just trying to stuff a lot of information in a small space. But it's adequate, sufficient, and you can use it. And then you've got some note pages here. And it's pretty cool that they have these note pages. And interesting that they are a double column kind of a format, which I think is funny because you have single column in the front here and then double column for note space. And often Bibles will have double column, and if they have notes, it'll be single column notes. So I think that's pretty funny that they're the opposite. And then you've got your CSB maps. This is similar to what I've seen in other CSB Bibles. So nice maps. So I think that's about 8 or 9 maps there, and they're very colorful and useful. So what you're getting for a retail price of $30 is a nice looking cover. It is not necessarily the most durable Bible in the world, but for a reader, something that you're going to pick up and read at home or take with you somewhere to read long sections of the Bible, this is going to be a nice Bible to have in your arsenal of Bibles. I also wanted to mention that even though the retail price is $30, I got this for only $15 at Christian Book Distributors. So that's on sale, and I think that's an amazing price for what you're getting. It probably usually costs a little bit more than that. So for under $30, you're getting something that's really practical and useful. And again, the CSB I think is a fantastic Bible to have in your collection. So that again is the CSB single column personal size Bible. This is the black leather touch edition, and I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for watching this review from a Fresh Perspective.